Hello, everyone there. So, this is a very interesting panel that has been brought for you, Content Subcontinent. And the subcontinent reference comes because my fabulous five panelists are from four nations at this point of time. I have with me Miss Anupama Mandloi, a very ace television producer, director. She has been the managing director of Fremantle for 7 years. She's there from Mumbai. I have with me Dr. Golam Muhammad Rahman, the editor in chief of the third largest newspaper of Bangladesh, Ajker Patrika, and also the former Chief Information Commissioner, Bangladesh, joining from Dhaka. I have with me Ms. Sampada Malla, an ace producer, director of television programs and also now feature films, joining us from Kathmandu, Nepal. And very interestingly, Kunal Vijayakar, everyone knows him in the context of anything that you can eat. So Kunal Vijayakar joins us also from Mumbai, very well-known YouTuber and a television personality. And the Rolling Stone India editor, executive editor, Miss Nirmika Singh, joining from Dubai, a very well-known
Thank
name in
you.
the world of music, particularly well-known music critic. So there is a very diversity in the audience. You have someone from journalism, uh, someone from music, someone from acting and YouTube, content creation, from television content creation, cinema, all together. And what are we doing? We will be discussing for the next 60 minutes how the content in the subcontinent has evolved during and beyond the pandemic period. As we all know, last 20 months has been phenomenal. You can look at from many angles, good and bad and ugly, but it has been undoubtedly a phenomenal, having a phenomenal impact on our lives from all aspects, content, entertainment, information included. So, the first question to the panel, and that's a good job for a moderator. You don't have to answer the questions, you only have to raise them. You guys have to answer. The first question is, how has this pandemic affected your line of work? And for that, I'll bring in the television personality who has worked with Sony, Sub, Star Plus, who has headed the content and the business of Fremantle India that produces Indian Idol and many other well known programs. So I'll first start with Madam Anupama. How do you evaluate the content that has been produced during and beyond the pandemic? Which are the focal points? What are the challenges they are in during lockdown, beyond lockdown, and now what you see? Over to you, Madam Anupama.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you for having me here. It's a privilege to be here with all the panelists. So, talking about how the COVID period has impacted media content creation, basically the need for content escalated and the various platforms were forced to build alternatives like, because of the lockdown, shooting outside of Mumbai, paying higher retainers to crew and artists for stay and travel, increased shoot budgets. So whatever was needed to be done was done to feed the monster because it really did prove to become a monster. When everything was shut down and people were locked at homes, all they needed to turn to was some entertainment that could lighten, just this entire phase that people were going through. So, be it original content, licensed content, or gaming, the demand was unprecedented. Edit studios were set up in homes. Content creators and enablers had to invest in equipment for work to continue. Subtitling and dubbing grew in scale as the need to customize content for local audiences grew. So today, shoots have resumed, and the realization that content is really the ultimate destination for homebound millions has underlined the need for supporting infrastructure, scale, and investment. Um, another interesting thing that happened is that while television consumption grew, cable distribution fell significantly. So according to BARC, TV homes rose from 183 million to 210 million in 2020, but a large percentage went to broadband and DTH distribution. So basically, all that I'm trying to say is that there is potential for investment in the cable business if they are enabled to become a multi-system operator like the Seven Star in Mumbai that uses cable not to provide just TV, but entertainment-enabled TV. And to sum it up, like the past 2 years have clearly highlighted the need for a technology-enabled media environment. That's it. Thank you.
Before I go to the next speaker, Madam Anupama, I'd like to also ask, appointment viewing is going down largely in today's times. So, in the given scenario, do you think predetermined programming on television would be surviving the onslaught of anytime entertainment of the OTT platforms? How do you look at it?
Eventually, no. I mean, currently, if people have as many people as we would need for that switch to happen have not yet moved to the digital space. But as broadband enters more and more homes, I think that will change, because with the kind of pressures people are facing with education, with finance, with working from home, and then also having access to entertainment, there is absolutely no way that pre-programmed entertainment is going to work. People want to do things at their own time, and so yes, that shift is going to happen.
Great, thank you. We shall get back to you soon.
Thank you.
Let me go over to Dhaka. Now we have with us Dr. Muhammad Golam Rahman, the former Chief Information Commissioner of Bangladesh. And very interestingly, during this COVID period of the last 20 months, he has given birth to a newspaper which has acquired the position of the third largest newspaper of Bangladesh, Ajker Patrika. And it's a COVID baby. That's way more significant within 20 months. So how do you look at, and you are from the world of news and information, so how do you look at, Dr. Rahman, this content, conundrum, the pressures on content and how it has evolved during this pandemic period, particularly in the context of Dhaka?
Thank you, Professor Chowdhury. It's my privilege to talk to you from Dhaka. You know that we all were under the grip of COVID-19, and everybody understands the situation we had. Bangladesh is not a different place or situation in this globe. So we experienced all these odds in our life. And, from the media point of view, most of the print media they ceased their publications during the pandemic. Only few newspapers coming from Dhaka and some of the daily newspapers which were published from different regions, they could continue with very small circulation, and also the distribution of newspapers are very much hampered by the situation we had, particularly in 2020, I mean. The thing is, the people were frightened of whether they could touch a newspaper, I mean a printed newspaper. Although we had, and we also have the privilege of having the online version of newspapers, but most of our small newspapers, they could not publish their editions. And when you talk about my paper, especially Ajker Patrika, started publication from June 27th. We had started our trial version from March, but we hit market on June 27th. So it is only about 4 months plus. And in this few months, we could get the third highest circulated newspaper in Bangladesh. The first highest circulated newspaper was established in 23 years back, and the second one also a couple of years back. So when you see a newspaper comes in the market in COVID situation and also in lockdown and all that, but we had a different policy altogether. We have 10 different editions in Bangladesh. Bangladesh, the small country geographically, but population-wise, it is 17 crore of people, 170 million people in Bangladesh. But if you ask me about the circulation of newspaper, it is very very small, I should say. You know, not even 5% of our total population read the newspaper. But now the present scenario is the online version is getting popular, and the online newspaper and online news portal and all other news sources are available, and so many people on their social media, particularly on uh, Facebook and other social sites, they get the alert, and they get connections, and then they get news
Yes.
mostly. But at the same time, you see the television. Uh, we found the television channels were on. Their news and bulletins were there, but not much activities or events were there. Because of the scarcity of activities and events, whether it is political or government or any other type, we could not find much. That's why there is a situation that our reporters, they could not bring much. But in the health sector, we found the reporters did very good job, and they unearthed a lot of, corruption reports during this COVID situation.
Right.
And particularly the health area.
I'll get back to you, Dr. Rahman, for further more details. You could identify certain areas that evolved very well during this time, and those which will be the focus area of content, journalistic content going ahead. We'll get back in some time in the next round. And now let's go to Dubai. Madam Nirmika is there. She's the executive editor of the Indian Rolling Stone. I'd like to know from you, during this COVID period, music, obviously, because people were all in a constrained situation, music had a rise in consumption. So, what were the forms of consumption of music? Has the industry revenue-wise gained out of it? And what do you think were the key points, key trends of music industry in the last 20 months?
Thank you. Thank you so much, Professor Chowdhury, for that question. Well, I can speak as a business person and also as an artist myself. The music industry probably had it, the pandemic really broke the music industry's bone in the pandemic. And we saw two, dichotomous streams appearing. One was very obvious, the live industry crashed, right? There were no more tours, they were cancelled, gig venues suffered, so hospitality suffered, so it had its own sort of, ripple effect. And that really crushed the spirit of the music industry, which is, as we all know, in live music. We all want to see our artists live, perform lives, watch tours, all of that came to a standstill. But while that happened, it also pushed communal creation into, say, solitary creation. So we saw a lot of content creators emerge. The pandemic was a great time where the democratization of content was, sorry, where the democratization of content was seen in its, in a glorious form. And as I would like to quote this line from the Canadian communication theorist who said that the medium is the message essentially. And it was in the pandemic that we saw that the medium really became the message. We didn't have, after the virtual concerts and live, interactions, we really didn't have much time. And that's why short format content is really ruling the roost right now. And we see a lot of people turning to, becoming full-time content creators. So what has happened during the pandemic, what I want to say is that art has taken a content creator identity now. So I'm no longer just a poet, but I'm also a content creator. By virtue of being a musician, an artist, a creator, I'm also now pulled into creating art like a machine, and there's no escaping it. Some people see it as a downturn, as just a necessary evil. Other people embrace it because, they think that it's that beautiful thing that helps them overcome creative inertia. But live is springing back into action. The season's up and about. I'm at the Dubai Expo right now. I work closely with Rahman sir, yeah, Rahman sir. So he performed here. We are right now mentoring a 50-woman orchestra called the Firdaus Orchestra, which performed at the Expo. There are a lot of Indian artists that are coming over and doing guest, appearances. So I'm really happy as an industry person to see that everything's coming back into action. But yeah, but the content game will continue. right? We'll see newer forms, we'll see newer formats, and the current format happens to be the 15-second format, which you might have seen on your Instagram or TikTok and what have you. Thank you.
Yes, yes, there has been, almost a showcasing of talent in all the social media, and Instagram evolved to be the strongest medium. Influencer marketing evolved to be the strongest channel of building brands in this last 20 months. I do agree to that. And short format content, 15 seconds to maybe a TikTok video, a little larger, longer, they have become very popular. I do find that you have collaborations with A.R. Rahman and Clinton Cerejo. That's really encouraging and interesting. I would like to know later on in the next round, how do you see the business going ahead while the format takes a change and artists become content creators? Do they really earn through this new scenario? Are the old mechanisms or the old ways of earning becoming obsolete and being replaced by newer ones or not? To what extent? We might come to that in the next round. Let
Sure.
me go to the next speaker, next panelist. Very interestingly, we have with us Kunal Vijayakar, and I have been following his work online and on channel, on television channel, particularly the week that wasn't. That's my favorite. The week that wasn't. You know, political satire, and obviously, once in a while, his food shows. He's very well known for that. His food show YouTube channel, खाने में क्या है? The commonest thing that we ask every evening to our moms or wives or daughters or ourselves, because many of us are cooks ourselves. So we ask this, खाने में क्या है? So, और क्या बनना चाहिए? All that. So, how do you look at this period, the pandemic period, impacting upon your content, your area of content of YouTube creation, of food content, and also of satire? Over to you.
Thank you, Professor Chaudhary and the panel. This is a very, very important discussion, if I may say, because this pandemic and the lockdown has affected all of us in the media in some way or the other. I know some people have benefited tremendously through the media, and some people have had a disastrous 1.5 year. I cannot speak with any authority on numbers, figures, etc., like Nirmika and Anupama have, because they are literally business heads of sorts. I'm a mere piece of talent, so I can just tell you about what I experienced. Um, I was working in. I have always, in the last few years, worked in two areas. One is humor, and the other is food. Um, and so when the lockdown happened, I was just plainly and sheerly lucky that the humor show that we do, which is the week that wasn't, is on a news channel and is not on and was not on a GC or any other channel. It being on a news channel, news channels were functioning. The infrastructure was in place. We were allowed a press car to fetch us and drop us, so we could move around. So I did not even miss a single day of work as far as the week that wasn't concerned, which we spent about 2 days a week doing, which was lucky because at least the money kept coming in. Otherwise, like a lot of artists, we would have been half broke. Like a lot of people lost work, and it was quite disastrous. A lot of technicians lost work, at least for the first till the first lockdown opened up. Um, so in that sense, I was lucky, and I sometimes wondered that if it wasn't for the week that wasn't on a news channel, what would have happened to what we call regular income? Um, as far as the food show is concerned, we decided to launch a YouTube channel. In my personal case, about 5 years too late. I should have done it when before, when everybody else did it. But you know how we are. We are television and we are superior and say, what is this digital rubbish and all this? And then you suddenly realize that digital has caught up to you and they are leaving you far behind.
And the
And
rubbish is the
so,
mainstream. The rubbish becomes the
yes,
mainstream.
absolutely, absolutely. I'm not saying it was rubbish. It was we who called it rubbish
Yeah,
because
yeah.
we came from the higher platform of television and all that. So again, what happened is that a very young team of kids, if I may call them that, who I've worked with in the past, said, "What are you doing? What are you doing? No food show on air. Nothing is happening. Come on, let's do something on YouTube." okay, so it's partially self-funded, etc. But do it, do it, do it, and we decided to do it, which was brilliant because I sort of got really happy getting out. The first lockdown was over; it had just opened up. We decided to, with mask and all on, started going onto the streets, going into restaurants. Kitchens were open because takeaway was still alive. Restaurants were not opening, so they gave us the time to be able to go in
Right.
and shoot things. And I think we made a decent impact. Within the first couple of months, we were over 1 lakh viewers, 1 lakh subscribers, with some videos going way beyond, like, 3 million and whatever. But I just wanted to, I just wanted to sort of talk about YouTube itself and the way YouTube has grown. Every mainstream television channel has a digital footprint. It's on YouTube. They may not be running the whole shows, but they're running trailers if nothing else on YouTube. So this medium, which is a digital medium, has become just so important. We have over 1,200 YouTubers in India who have over 1 million subscribers. Uh, and they are expected to, they're expected to just rise and rise and rise. And it's here to stay.
Right.
And all of
Great.
us who may have missed the boat have to catch up very fast. Is my observation
Very good.
on what has happened during the pandemic.
Very good. And I'll get back to you on understanding
So,
how Mumbai will be leading this new revolution in content, and how and what would you be doing over the next 12 months. We'll come back in the next round. But over to
yeah,
you. We move to now the beautiful Himalayan nation, Nepal, and its capital, Kathmandu, where a piece of my heart is always there because it's so beautiful. The people are so friendly, hospitable. The climate is lovely, and the food, the cuisine is great. So Sampada, you have been working in this period. You had worked in Mumbai as well, but you went back to your roots to Kathmandu, and you have been working on television programs and also path-breaking new type of feature film. So would you please talk about how has the industry in Kathmandu shaped up, the content area shaped, the content domain shaped up during the pandemic and beyond? Over to you, Sampada Malla.
Namaste to everyone. So first, I would like to talk about theatre, as I'm involved in theatre. I'm the creative director of Sarvanam Theatre Group, which is the leading theatre group of Nepal, and we have our own auditorium. It's like Prithvi Theatre in Kathmandu. So what pandemic has done to us is that it has crashed completely. We are still not open. So theatre is in a very bad shape, but there's a hope. So the next area that I'm involved in is films. Um, Film, like in Mumbai, film has been affected really badly, and theaters, exactly, it's the same situation like in Mumbai. But what has been positive is that people here, because in Nepal, Nepali audience are dedicated Indian film lovers. I myself have grown up watching Indian films more than Nepali films. But in this pandemic, what I saw a positive silver lining was that the hall owners, even today, I think Suryavamshi has opened. Suryavamshi is the first super hit of Nepal, like in Mumbai, and now we are all rushing to release our films. My own film Kachputli is releasing like in December 30. So now there's a hope of filmmakers and producers that now audience are slowly getting back. But what has happened in this pandemic is that, very surprisingly, yes, it has crashed, it has affected, but multiplexes have opened in Kathmandu, which is really surprising. There are like 4 multiplexes that are opened in Kathmandu, the big chains like UFX and everything. And producers, when I interacted with producers, including my producer as well, they were all so calm, they were like, okay, fine, this is the time that let's rejuvenate, let's work on our, we've got more time to edit, and we've got more time to make our film much better, because there was this hope that this pandemic is for a certain time, but the future is always bright because audience are going to return to films. And Suryavamshi has become, what do you say, a big thing for us, because audience have now started going to theaters. So talking about, so again, film, I think it's now gearing up right now in Nepal. The halls have like started to, started to generate itself. And the other avenue that I'm involved in is television, which I want to talk about. I'm the creative producer of Crime Patrol Nepal. So it's the first time that Crime Patrol Nepal, the franchise fiction show, is coming in Nepal. And as we said, Nepal is like dedicated Indian, what do you say, Indian content viewer. So in Nepal, more than our reality shows, Taregama, Lil Champs, and Indian Idol, and all these kind of reality shows are like super duper hit. But for the first time, a fiction is coming in Nepal, which is Crime Patrol Nepal. So it's very so I have like around 300 people, directors and writers, and the whole team working in my guidance. And in the pandemic, what we did was we actually found ourselves, working on creative side. So television has not really been affected as such in Nepal. And yeah, that's it.
Great. Sampada, I'd like to know you have mentioned a few points. How has Mumbai been influencing the content market there? What sort of trends or what sort of analysis that you take or aspects that you take from Mumbai, whether it's technology, whether it's storylines, whether it's any other business aspects. For example, how is the OTT market doing in Nepal? Uh, has there been an influence of the Indian OTT industry over there? So that's one area I would like to get back in the next round. I would also would like to ask you how is the talent pool, the training, the quality, the technological awareness, how is it there and how it can be evolved further? Uh, Whether the internet, because I believe that a Nepali audience is in a large number on the web, in a country, in a nation of 30 million people, there is more than 9 million Facebook accounts itself. And mind you, half the nation is not having internet access in spite of that. So, what has been the influence of the web in the media industry, entertainment industry in Nepal? We'd like to take these questions in the next round. I'll come back to Madam Anupama once again. You had a very poignant industry perspective with respect to how the television industry has been doing. And towards the end of your talk in the last round, you said that television will have a major challenge from OTT. So this web-based entertainment that's evolving post-pandemic, has it increased? Obviously, it has, but to what extent has it increased the base of content? Has it become a challenge to mainstream cinema, mainstream television, mainstream even radio for that matter? And what new shape will content on cinema and television take with facing this challenge? What are the experiments you all are doing in Mumbai? Over to you, Anupama.
Yeah, so I think as far as content goes, the interesting thing is that since we haven't been able to release films in theaters, so that's the one big thing that has happened is that films are now releasing first on web and then releasing on, So the audience shift has been so phenomenal in terms of what we were watching 2 years ago and to what we are watching today. There has been a complete shift. So in the web space, the need for original content, the need to create content that is specifically designed to meet like diverse audiences. So like I mentioned earlier, subtitling and dubbing has become a big thing. And the reason is that today we find regional content from the South or from Bengal or Marathi content is being adapted for Hindi speaking audiences. What is also happening is that a lot of, you know, Turkish content, Korean content, Spanish content is being consumed in India.
Great.
And again, this is all becoming accessible only because today everything is available on one platform. It's the language is no longer an issue. Everything has been sort of subtitled in 25, 50 different languages. So today, as an individual, I have so much choice, I can pick and choose content based on which genre I want it to be from. I can pick and choose what I want kids to watch. I can pick and choose what language I want to watch, whether it is crime and I want to know that it's only from the Danish crime shows. So, in terms of variety and in terms of just the vastness of content that's available, that I think is a huge difference that has
Is a
happened.
major challenge that's happened.
Yes.
In recent times, three feature films have got reasonable success to an extent that some of them could be considered as hit, but not released in theater halls. Jai Bhim in Prime, and Sardar Udham in Prime, and Reshmi Rocket to an extent also can be said Z5. These three have mainstream actors. Jai Bhim, obviously Tamil mainstream actors. The other two mainstream actors of the Bollywood, and they have been reasonably successful on the OTT platforms. What does this signify? Does it signify the rise of an alternate entertainment platform as powerful as Bollywood cinema on the main theater hall? What do you think? How do you look at it?
Okay, so I look at it in a couple of different ways. One is that if this content that is being created, um, so while theaters have recently opened, the kind of crowds that are going into theaters are still not huge, and eventually people will go there. What I also think will happen is that now we'll move more towards community screening, where you'll have these smaller single screen theaters where people from nearby communities will get together and watch. But I think those multiplexes, because people have got too used to sitting in their armchair having popcorn, jo bhi khana hai kha lo. Everything is possible now. You sit in your armchair, you can watch whatever you want. In terms of the content creation, I think we'll have a lot more different storylines and narratives. We will also have a
Right.
very large and fresh outcrop of artists, which is really exciting, because not only in terms of people who face the camera, but people who work behind it. There is going to be, we are going to find lots of new talent, lots of new ways of storytelling, lots of experimentation, all
Great.
because there is a larger audience and a much more fragmented audience that's sort of able to
That
access
idea,
this
right.
entertainment. Yes.
I appreciate. For completely right. In the next round, I'd like to, in the last round that will come next, very quickly, I'd like to ask you two or three influences or impacts that Mumbai industry content market will have over the subcontinent. What will Mumbai bring in? The trends or the aspects that will bring in? That's one. And secondly, what would be your what are you planning next in the content market? This is another thing that I'd like to. You can even tell your ideas about legal changes that need to be done
Yeah.
to make the content market much more robust and the business much more stable than what it is now. Coming to you, Dr. Rahman, how would you look at, I mean, going beyond just journalism, how do you look at the entertainment and media industry as a whole in Bangladesh evolving today? And do you think that there have been any major Indian subcontinent features or trends evolving in recent times? Over to you, Dr. Rahman.
Thank you, Ujjwal. This is again a historical presence should be in our mind. We have a great influence of Indian television channels, and we have got a great impact of Indian films in Bangladesh. You might be surprised to know that we do not import any film, any Hindi or any Indian film to Bangladesh. This is very irony. But at the same time, most of the people, I mean the audience in Bangladesh, they watch on television. They watch films and all other programs of Indian television channels, particularly the Indian serials. But very recently, there are few talk shows which are conducted in the studios also. And for Indian films and Indian content, if you say, there is a big demand, but we do not have bilateral trade agreement
Okay.
with Bangladesh. I mean, between Bangladesh and India.
So I'll move to Kunal. Kunal, you have given a very good perspective on how YouTube has risen, in this pandemic period as a source of content and in many ways. So, given the fact that OTT is coming up in a big way and language OTT is coming, Marathi OTT, Gujarati OTT, in Bengali, Hoichoi is doing very well. Planet Marathi has started doing well in Marathi. So, how do you look at the future of television entertainment, Bombay-centric television entertainment that's been created?
Well, in some sort of way, and I'm not sure how OTT makes money, but OTT has come and saved a large part of the Indian film and television industry.
Right.
I say this even in terms of these films that we say that are released on OTT instead of releasing in the big theaters is a saving grace, because these films were all meant for theater. They would have got broke if the OTTs had not bought these films and release them. OTT has also increased the amount of content we have and the kind of content we have. The kind of content that would not fly on mainstream television or fly on the big screen either. So there is a lot of creativity happening. There are actors who OTT has saved. These actors would never have been able to make a substantial living on mainstream television or mainstream cinema. Good actors, really talented actors who are finding roles and work because of OTT. So OTT,
Right.
in a way, has come and saved saved the whole industry. Because at the end of the day, whether it's television or film, the technicians are the same. A lot of the actors overlap. The studios are the same. Everything. It's one big industry. So that is as far as OTT. That's my view on what OTT has done.
Yes, yes.
Uh,
Pankaj Tripaঠি's work on OTT is, rocking in recent
Absolutely,
times,
like
and there are many
Pankaj,
more, many more.
yeah, Pankaj, and many more
Yes,
are such great actors, but they would never have been appreciated on in mainstream cinema, because mainstream cinema requires a certain kind of actor, uh, and that is the truth. But not only that, even a film, Salman Khan's film, I don't know how well it did, but Radhe finally was released on OTT and as a premium offering with Z, because you had to pay to watch that film, which is a new format even for OTT. So, and I believe they made a decent amount of money doing that. So OTT is, of course, but then comes the question as to where is OTT making profits, because there's no advertising on OTT, and I have no answer to that.
subscription.
I just,
The only way can they do is
well,
subscription.
yeah, possibly subscription or extremely deep pockets and a very, very long term view. No, and a
Yes.
very long term view. We want to make money in 25 years. We don't want to make money right now. It's possible. I mean, I don't know how it works. Yeah. Uh, Having said that, I think television will still remain in its own space. If you look at what is happening on television, the big television channels also have their OTT platforms.
Yes.
Their offerings on television are also on OTT. So you've got appointment viewing for people who don't want to pay subscription and can still watch it over here. Big Boss runs live on OTT as well as on television. A lot of OTT TV platforms are announcing before television, watch it here. You know, so, so I think everything is going to coexist. You know,
The only trouble I have is
yeah,
that large part of the country is digitally inaccessible. I mean, not digitally connected. So there is a digital divide, and perhaps 30-40% of the population, as far as education is concerned, more than 50% it was. But as far as entertainment is concerned, at least 30% of the audience is still not queued on to the internet-based
but
entertainment.
with
For
our
them, what do you think?
numbers, if you look at, so if you say 30% is not clued on to digital, 70% of 130 crores is a hell of a lot of numbers.
Yes, yes,
You can
definitely.
actually ignore the 30% and still make tons and tons of
No, no, but
success. You know.
my question was, will the traditional television hold on to this 30% and a section of the remaining 70%? Is that the plan? Or they will
It
reboot, television will reboot, cinema will reboot? What do you think, so?
Uh, that's a very tough question. I can't predict the business end of this, but I think everybody is going to go for a reboot in terms of content. Okay, because everybody's getting used to, and they're getting a taste of really good, interesting content. So
Right,
I'm hoping that there is going to be a certain amount of reboot. You can see it happening in cinema already.
right.
Even multi-starrer films with big actors, the content, the writing, the screenplay is getting a little more, how do you say, slightly more
It's not
thoughtful.
it's not
It's
star
not
driven. It's story driven. It's more story driven now.
well, yes, story driven. There is star driven. You can't run away from star driven, because we still like our stars. Indian audiences still love stars. But there will be a change. There will 100% be a change because of just the amount of content that is there and the kind of content one is getting used to slowly, slowly. And look at platforms like MX Player and all that. They
Yeah.
are free. They are
Ashram.
free. You don't
Ashram.
even need.
Beautiful.
Yes, that's what. There you go. There you go.
Great, great.
So very, very exciting things ahead.
Yes, yes. We'll come back again. Sampada, the same question.
Sure.
What's the Mumbai influence that you see in the continent, subcontinent, particularly Nepali entertainment? And two, how is the digital revolution impacting upon the entertainment scenario of Nepal? OTT or online entertainment or whatever you find. So what do you, Sampada?
As I said, Nepali audience, a dedicated audience of Indian content, and especially in this pandemic, and especially with OTT, right? Whatever Indian audience are consuming, Nepali audience are consuming the same thing. So we are all like, but the major problem that I want to focus here in Nepal is that, for example, I myself, want to watch Big Boss. So I do not watch that in television right now. So I do not have boot subscriptions here, So I do not have Z5 subscription here, or the only subscription that is very easily available is Netflix. Because the major problem that Nepali audience, because there's a huge Nepali audience here who is a huge consumer of Z5 or Amazon Prime, or all these OTT platforms that are arising. But the major problem that we have is that how do we actually officially subscribe? So right now, Sony Live is the first one that has actually come up with official subscription in Nepal. Otherwise, the my only and in this pandemic, I actually wanted to watch Big Boss so much, and I was like telling my Indian friends to give me Voot subscription. But the problem here is that it doesn't work in Nepal. So that's the problem that Nepali audience are facing with OTT stuffs in India. And I will.
Local OTT,
Yes,
Nepali OTT or local web entertainment.
Yes, Nepali OTT is still not growing here much because we are still very faithful to Indian contents. So it's slowly growing here, but not at much big rate. And very interesting thing, I think Anupama ma'am would be really interested to know here is that since I've also worked in Mumbai television industry as a writer and stuffs. So here in Nepal, what happens is that television industry, there is no TRP system. So how do like advertisers and sponsors know that the show is hit is actually from YouTube. So if there are like millions views in YouTube, means that the show is hit. So we are always dependent on digital media here. So very surprisingly here in Nepal, unlike in India, it's not the channels that like produce shows. It's like the producers, independent producers produce shows, and you have to take channel timings. You have to buy time of the channel, and then and then do that. So
Some interesting insights, no doubt. Some interesting insights. What are your immediate future? We have very limited time now. In one line, what are your immediate future plans in content creation?
So there's a lot of thing happening. My film Kathputli, which has been showcased in many international prestigious film festivals, it's releasing in Kathmandu. So the biggest challenge right now is because Suryavamshi has been a hit. So now Nepali films are releasing. But just a week later, I think RRR. KGF is releasing, so it's a tough competition for Nepali film here. Crime Patrol Nepal is also on the verge of its release, so hopefully it will open a new sector of fiction
Great.
in Nepal, because Crime Patrol is really really popular in Nepal. The Crime Patrol show in India.
Best wishes for the Nepali Crime Patrol and Kathputli in times to come. Anupama, would you like to please comment on the 2 or 3 dominant trends coming up in Mumbai-based entertainment industry that will make a big impact on the subcontinent, and your plans for the next 1 year?
Thank you, Professor. So, what do I say? So, the thing is that we have seen a growth of content across the globe. And the interesting thing is shows like Scam 92, Mirzapur, Family Man, Little Things, Asur, Delhi Crimes. These are all Indian. And the thing while we were doing television was that if only our content would travel and if only our content would be recognized. Today, we are making diverse content and it is being seen globally. It is being appreciated. And that's because of the digital trends, that have stepped in. The other thing is that documentaries are also gaining an audience, so there is attraction with viewers. We have seen Wild Wild Country, House of Secrets. These documentaries have suddenly picked up and are being watched not only in India. So there is an audience that's building for new kinds of content, but also being appreciated outside. Within India, we have regional adaptations like Anupama is a remake of Star Jalsha's Bengali series Shrimoy. Now, these kind of developments reveal an opportunity for investments. I just think that there are two hurdles for us. One is IP for Indian content. Production houses don't get to retain it, which means that their valuation in any case is usually much lower than the volume or the kind of content they generate. So if we were to take regional IP or Indian IP for adaptation globally, there's a huge opportunity. But we are limited because producers are only treated as vendors here. They're service providers.
That's
If
the
we were,
contrast with Nepal. There, the
yes,
producers actually control the IP. That's the
absolutely.
big contrast there. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah. Continue.
yes. And so, if we were to sort of encourage the growth of boutique content hubs, and encourage people to retain IP so that they can monetize it across various platforms, I think we will have even better quality content. I mean, look at the applause model, for instance.
Right.
The other thing is, you know, for content companies, cable distribution, or even broadband companies to enter India, this is again a huge opportunity. If only the monopolies were no longer in play, and the fear of being, I mean, it's politically incorrect, I guess, but, the fear of being put behind bars or having PIL filed against creatives were not a genuine fear. Censorship regulations for OTT are building, a sense of distrust, insecurity, because freedom of speech has somewhere become subservient to offending multiple sensibilities. So, there are a couple of hurdles, and I think if we realize that the opportunities and the kind of money media can bring into the country is far, far more than the kind of legislation we have in place, I think things could change for the better.
One suggestion for legislative change of law. One concrete suggestion that you would like to give for legal
IP,
change or
IP,
IP. So
yes,
protection of intellectual property.
yes,
How do you
yes.
how do you create the
Protection,
regime for
well,
that?
more than protection, uh, you know, allowing content creators to own IP, so
Great.
that that would be for me. Yeah.
Your personal goals next 365 days, content wise,
So
production wise, in every form.
my personal goal is, like, for the past 5 years, I'm working independently.
Right.
I'm now working in an, so we have got a documentary called Coral Woman, which we are now using to create impact on ground for the environment and marine restoration and marine conservation. So basically, that's one field that I've gone into, and then maybe producing another documentary in time to come.
Kunal, coming back to you. Yes. How do you look at your work next 1 year, and what do you think that Mumbai will be bringing in the world of content over the next 1 year?
Yeah. So honestly, I want to retire this year, but I don't think that's going to happen. Um, uh, I Anupama made some very very important points, from the IP issues and all that. And I am working on one project uh, in the applause model, where one gets to keep at least part of the IP, if not the whole IP, which is great. We're working on some comedy stuff. I hope to take the YouTube channel to greater lengths. Hopefully, more people will watch, and we'll be able to afford to travel a little more with this YouTube channel. This is what I'm hoping for. Um, as far as Mumbai is concerned, I still pretty much think Mumbai is going to be the epicenter of our entertainment. So I think Mumbai still has a very, very important role to play in the whole entertainment, because whether you like it or not, it's still all based out of Mumbai,
Right.
and that is the truth. But I think we've got exciting times ahead.
Over to you, Nirmika. We have been missing you for the last 25 minutes or
I'm
20
so
minutes
sorry.
odd.
I've been
No
struggling
issues, no issues,
myself.
no issues. So you had given a good idea about the content part of it. Now, can we look at the business part of it? So Mumbai as a center for content business, IP in the context of music, protection of IP. How does the music industry earn? For example, in Nepal, I know is the music that earns before the film. in our case, I mean, Indian case, subcontinent case, how do you look at it? So, what do you, Nirmika, for your points?
The business side of things, I think it's a great time to be a content creator. It's a great time to be whatever and whoever you want to be. There are about 199, I was just checking my facts, 199 million internet users who are English language, demography in India. And then you have 600 million who are vernacular. So I think there's this one thing that we often say in our newsroom at Rolling Stone India, which is that when you go local, you truly go global. So I think that's going to happen right now. It's happening as we speak. Local content creators have really found their audiences, and that's all happening via the platforms that are generated that are coming up every now and then. The business looks good because the avenues of monetization have increased, right? Today, as a content creator, as an influencer, I can earn simply by posting on my Instagram, doing a brand promotion, and that's totally possible. And of course, you have an entire spectrum there. But that's come to also people who have curated an audience, who have built a community and who have worked on it. So that's one. A lot of digital performances have led to a newer stream now where, distances don't limit you and you can probably do a gig online. That was par for the course for the, most part of the pandemic and continues to be. So people are, at least my community is now sort of looking at a hybrid model, even in performance. The third bit would be, how like Kunal was speaking about it in a different fashion, and even Rahmanji about going really local. I think local is the way to go, and the platform doesn't limit you anymore. And I think that instead of back in the day, we were always looking for that opportunity where someone discovered us or granted us a platform. A lot of artists would lament the fact कि हमको platform नहीं मिलता, हमको spotlight नहीं मिलती. लेकिन आजकल आपका Instagram, आपका social media ही platform है. So
Great.
we're platforms unto ourselves. So the business is really a lot of the business is very individual, very microscopic in that sense.
So we have exhausted our time. It was a very engrossing discussion. There could have been a few more examples, a few more comments and observations from all of you. The outstanding ideas or concepts that I can remember from the last 60 minutes are: one, protection of intellectual property of the producers, the creative producers; two, Mumbai continues to be a major content generating hub; three, going local, hyper local helps both in entertainment and in news; four, OTT has and will have a deciding impact on other forms of content, but other forms of the dissemination of content, but still cinema and television continue for many reasons, digital divide being one, but many other reasons as well. But and the scope and the variety of content has increased too much, quite a bit in the recent times post pandemic, due to the web revolution going on in entertainment and news. Even in the context of brand communication also, web is determining a lot. But having said that, the content's significance in entertainment still remains and will continue. The platforms have increased, the platforms have become important by itself, and getting audiences on platforms have become easier due to the web than what it was earlier. Some of the points that have been brought forth, there are many things that we could have discussed further on talent creation, talent nurturing, monetizing the platforms furthermore, because though the platforms have increased, avenues to bring in inclusive content has increased, but monetization still is a challenge. And we need to delve much deeper on that going ahead. Thank you, all the panelists and the organizers of Subcontinent Content. This discussion will go a long way. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.